So what it all comes down to in the end is this. It's very clear that the 1% who control us deliberately conceal important information through any number of devious and cynical methods, and that they do so on a daily basis. This is no conspiracy theory. It's much worse than that. It's entirely normal. The only possible reason for this must be that our rulers want to keep us in a state of perpetual ignorance about what they're really doing. On the one hand, this is almost kind, because once we do find out, it really is quite depressing. But on the other hand, it's only us, the 99%, who could actually stop the international gangsterism that's continually trashing our planet. If only we could all find out about it. So the question is this: should the people continue to be lied to and kept in permanent ignorance, sincerely believing the world is the fairy tale illusion that's carefully maintained by our news media and film studios on behalf of our rulers, just so we don't become depressed? Or should the people have the opportunity to know what their rulers are really doing, so they might be inspired and motivated to finally do something about it? It may reasonably be argued that until recent times, proper information was impossible to obtain because of limited technology. Consider, for example, the problems that confronted the British East India Company a mere 200 years ago, when it took at least a year for information to travel between England and India. But today, however, mankind has the most advanced and sophisticated communication systems ever seen. It is now feasible for people to communicate instantly with each other anywhere on the planet. It's no longer possible to argue that providing proper information to the 99% cannot be done because of limited technology. However, there's a far bigger problem to providing proper information that's as alive and well and powerful today as it has always been, and that's the desire of the 1% to ensure the 99% do not have it. Sheer ruthlessness and brutality is something the 1% have used with gay abandon since the beginning of recorded history as a highly effective means of controlling information, by torturing and murdering anyone who dares question or disagree with the propaganda provided by the 1%. Ruthlessness and brutality are still very popular tools for the 1%, as countless victims in Muslim and Third World countries could quickly confirm. Although ruthlessness and brutality are frequently used in First World countries too, as Chelsea Manning, Edward Snowden and Julian Assange could quickly confirm. For example, together with thousands of peace protesters from the wonderful Occupy movement. The 1% have honed to perfection a far more effective technique for controlling the information used by the 99%, such that most Westerners sincerely believe they live in countries where anyone can read and write what they like. Even when obvious evidence against this view is presented in the likes of Julian Assange, Chelsea Manning and Edward Snowden, Western 99%ers still believe they live in a free society. You have to hand it to the 1%. It is a superb piece of brainwashing. As I've tried to show, in addition to ruthlessness and brutality, there are three other tools used by the 1% to maintain this illusion. There's the subtle manipulation of language, such that the words used by the 1% never have quite the same meaning as when we, the 99%, use them. Then there's the rigorous control of education, such that most young people never get to learn how their world really works. Then there's the absolute control by the 1% of the mainstream media, such that the ignorance into which we're born, and which is transformed into stupidity by the 1%'s education system, is carefully controlled throughout our lives by the mainstream media, such that the chances of us ever finding out how our world really works is almost non-existent. Every nation has always known about the importance of controlling information. The West possibly enjoys some freedom of information relative to much of the world, but that doesn't mean that our information is not tightly controlled and manipulated. Far from it. Western controls are achieved with various subtle and cynical devices, such as the misuse of ordinary language. These devices have largely replaced the cruder methods of propaganda and outright censorship that were common 100 years ago. Today, public relations experts, propagandists in other words, have perfected the telling of the carefully crafted lie and half-truth, together with controlling the timing of when and how sensitive information is drip-fed into the public domain in order to increase or lessen its impact. A classic example of this standard practice of civil servants was provided at 2:55 p.m. on September the 11th, 2001. As the rest of the nation sat transfixed, watching their TV screens showing airliners flying into the World Trade Center, Joe Moore, an aide to Stephen Byers, the British Transport Secretary, wrote a now infamous memo that read, and I quote, "It is now a very good day for getting out anything we want to bury. Chancellor's expenses?" There was nothing exceptional about Miss Moore's instincts. That kind of thing was her job, and there are many other people doing very similar work every day of the week. She merely had the misfortune to have one particular memo made public. But it revealed a glimpse into the cynical and quite routine world of how Whitehall manages the limited details it provides about information it would prefer was buried. The Tory MP and one-time Health Minister, Edwina Currie, told another revealing little story into the workings of the Mandarin mind during a TV interview, and I quote, "I had altered a prepared speech I was due to give so that it made more sense, when a civil servant approached me and said, 'We would prefer it, Minister, if you read it the way it was written.' I only wanted to make it easier to understand," I answered. "Precisely, Minister," he replied. "That's why we would prefer you to read it the way it was written." The information that's supplied to the 99% in the form of so-called news is deliberately manipulated by the 1% to achieve their own dubious purposes. The evidence for this is considerable and impressive, and I've mentioned some of the superb sources where this evidence is supplied, such as Philip Knightley's book, The First Casualty, or Manufacturing Consent and Guardians of Power. There are many others. The great John Pilger has written many times about the deep cynicism of his own profession. John Pilger is one of the greatest journalists of all time, and his work should be compulsory reading in every school in the country. Given the unquestionably cynical and deceitful nature of the media, it's perfectly reasonable to wonder what can and cannot be believed. In the short term, the best position to take is that almost nothing provided by the mainstream media can be fully believed, and certainly never trusted. John Pilger describes how journalism should be practiced, quoting the American journalist T.D. Allman, who said that, and I quote, "Genuinely objective journalism is that which not only gets the facts right, it gets the meaning of events right. Objective journalism is compelling. Not only today, it stands the test of time. It is validated not only by reliable sources, but by the unfolding of history. It is reporting that which not only seems right the day it is published, it is journalism that 10, 20, 50 years after the fact still holds up a true and intelligent mirror to events." The purpose of this talk has been to try to show some of the problems around the vitally important subject of proper information. Obtaining it need not be as difficult as it is. Receiving good and proper information has always been made difficult because the 1% have always wanted complete control of information in the same way that they've always wanted to control everything else. That's why governments routinely cloak themselves in deep secrecy. We simply take it for granted that governments have a right to do this and should behave in this way. But a mere moment or two of rational thought makes it pretty obvious they should not. After all, if governments were truly operating in the best interests of us, the 99%, what reason could they possibly have for withholding information from us? But not only do they keep good information secret, the information they do provide is invariably misinformation or outright lies, as the journalists Izzy Stone and Martha Gellhorn both knew very well. Churchill knew it too when he made his observation about truth needing a bodyguard of lies. An infamous contemporary of Churchill also knew about the effectiveness of the 1% casually lying to the 99%. For it was Hermann Goering who said this, and I quote, "The people can always be brought to the bidding of the leaders. That is easy. All you have to do is tell them they're being attacked and denounce the pacifists for lack of patriotism and exposing the country to danger. It works the same way in any country." Providing proper information need not be difficult. First and foremost, it depends on the will of governments to be completely open and transparent. This has never been the case. Therefore, the easiest thing any government could do to help provide proper information is simply to scrap most of its secrecy laws, together with the vast departments whose only purpose is finding out the secrets of other governments while concealing their own. Apart from the personal details of citizens, it's difficult for governments to justify the need to keep their records secret. After all, as they always tell us, whenever they create some new law to spy on us, if you're doing nothing wrong, there's no reason to try and hide it. Providing the citizen is not harming anyone is absolutely no business of the government what she is doing. However, the business of government, which belongs to the people, is very much the business of the citizen. In other words, the individual citizen has every right to privacy. Governments do not. This is the first step towards providing proper information. Next in order of priority is proper education. Young people need to learn how to work out for themselves what the truth is, and then how to use the truth to make good and humane decisions. Closely related to the issue of proper education is the proper use of language. Although it's in the nature of language that it's often confusing, and it always will be like that, the issue about language and proper information is around those who deliberately make it confusing with the deliberate intention of spreading deceit. The media have long played a very significant role in this function. Once again, a proper education would teach young people about the devious tricks of the corporate media world, which would make it extremely difficult for the media to continue doing it. So, properly open government combined with proper education will go a very long way to eliminating the current problems the ordinary citizen has of receiving proper information. These things are not difficult to put right. They simply need the determination to do them, a determination which our great trusted leaders have never shown and never will.